behind me in this door is a third addition to this family of bikes that we have. And boys, she is special, she is rare, she is unique, and she's ours now. So without saying anything further, let's show her off, man. Voila! Don't judge. She might look tatty right now, but let me show you why I decided to get this bike. There is a great reason. She's hiding something special. This is a no-name mystery scooter. I don't know what brand it is. I don't know what year it is. I don't know what make, model. There is no VIN plate. I cannot find anything about the serial number that is on this frame here. Also, what you always do is you go over to the motor and you can type in what type of motor it is with those numbers there. Nothing pops up with this bike. Nothing at all. But what I can tell you, and the reason I bought this unit right here is this. Hebo, okay? I found this in a garage. This is literally like a barn find right here. And the first thing I noticed was this Hebo pipe right here. Hebo, like what the hell is that, man? I didn't know about it either. Hebo is a Spanish company. They do not even ship to the US, and when they do, it costs a ton of money. I seen this was a 2-stroke. I'm like, that's a massive pipe, man. I look at the motor, and I see it's a horizontal motor. Almost like a horizontal Minarelli, just like on my Vento. This thing has a massive Hebo racing pipe on it with a horizontal Minarelli motor, straight powerhouse, and on top of it, but it's a 12-inch swap in the back, okay? So somebody before me swapped the 12-inch wheel in the back here. The bigger the wheel you have, the faster you go. This pipe and brand right here is rare, super rare, high quality Spanish parts. And it is both a Hebo pipe on top of a Hebo motor. There it is. This is a 70cc Hebo 2-stroke motor. I don't know if it has a crank in it. I don't know if it has any transmission stuff done. It's missing a Kickstarter. I heard this bike run. I 100% heard this bike run about 2 months ago. He started it up, it ran, and this thing was loud, real loud. So it 100% has compression. So this bike here is capable, very capable. The dude who I bought it from before me said that he had this thing going 60 miles an hour. And that's incredible because of everything that is done to this. But boys, she is missing some parts, clearly, okay? No battery. There are wires hanging everywhere in the back of this thing. Random wires here. The ignition does not work. You have to start it with a screwdriver right here. Missing the intake filter. That's in a box of parts over here. But we can see that there's a new carburetor on here as well. New fuel lines, new carburetor. There's a lot of things that I didn't even dig into yet. It's missing a Kickstarter. I gotta pop off this transmission case. The only clue I have to what this brand is right here. Hershey. Whatever this is from the early 2000s. And I know this because Hebo, this brand over here, did ship to the US and was very popular in the early 2000s. So whoever built this bike, built it to go fast, efficient, and with one purpose. And that's what I want from bikes. And I want this thing to go fast again. It runs, okay? First, we need to get a battery because there's a checklist here, right? 4 things: power, air, spark, fuel. First thing we're gonna do is make sure that this bike has power. So we're gonna get it a battery, hook everything up, test everything, gotta trace all the wires, make sure everything turns on that it's supposed to. And once I know that the bike has adequate power, I'm gonna go into the fuel system, clean the whole tank out, clean the lines out, inspect everything, make sure it's good. It already has fuel in it, but you know how that goes. We're gonna rip everything out of there. Air, gonna make sure that this bike is getting air, efficient. Once we make sure that it has air and everything is clear and good to go, pop that spark plug cap off, put the plug in there, run it, see if it's got spark, good to go. Put it back on the bike, fire this bad girl up, because I did hear it fire up about 2 months ago for a whole second, a whole second. So I already know that there is going to be carburetor issues. It's a new carburetor, so I already know that they didn't put a bigger jet in there and it's not fueled correctly. But boys, this bike here, okay, is fast. I already know it's fast. That pipe on this bike is a straight up racing pipe. It's not a mid-range pipe. It is not a low-range pipe, if that even exists. This is a straight up Hebo high performance racing pipe on this bike with a 70cc Hebo motor already. So this bike is capable 100%. It's dusty, it's rusty, it's missing stuff, but you know me. Look at that Vento when I got it, right? Piece of crap, had pieces laying everywhere, parts falling off. It blew up in 20 minutes of riding it. What did we do? We ripped it apart, rebuilt it, stripped the paint down, painted it. Look at it now. That bike's gorgeous. This bike here is the biggest project I have ever bought, but how much did I buy it for, right? This is another reason. 150 bucks. $150 for a pipe. This pipe alone is worth 300 as is, okay? The motor, another 100. So I got a deal, absolute steal on this bike, man. I could not pass up a high performance 12-inch rear squat horizontal Minarelli 2-stroke bike. This thing's gonna be a powerhouse, but there's some work to do, and that's what we're gonna do. I am pumped up, man. A lot of work, but this is gonna be a lot of learning experiences too. But it's pretty simple, man. Power, fuel, air, spark. Once you go through those things and everything that's connected with it, hypothetically speaking, and I did hear it, it should fire up. And then we'll go from there. Who knows what this bike is gonna have, man? There is so many things. I could run it naked. There's a whole bunch of panels over here, by the way. Here is the cooling fan shroud. We got a whole bunch of flywheel parts. We have, I didn't even look at this yet. Oh, here's the Kickstarter. We have the Kickstarter. Oh, okay. So we got to put the Kickstarter back together. That's all right. Here's the gear and everything. We got the intake filter here. We have the body panels, extra body panels, because that goes on the front and that's already there. I do not know the story of this bike, but I'm about to make it my own. There's all sorts of stuff in here. Look at this. We got wires in here. Oh boy. Definitely stuff to figure out. But that's what I'm going to do. These scooters are simple. 2-strokes are simple. This is a project. There's no way around it. But this thing is going to get as much love as my Tao and my Vento does. She's just going to be on the back burner. But I'm going to dig into this thing, go through everything I was talking about, and make sure it's good to go before we fire this thing up. Who knows what this is going to do? This could be my naked bike. I always wanted to run a naked frame setup. This could be that. I never liked retro scooters, so that's more motivation to pull everything off. All I know is that this bike is capable, and I'm going to make it run again. We're going to go through every step of the process to get this thing right, and I already have a name for it. Hebo the Hobo. Hebo the Hobo, man. I like that because that's the brand of the bike. I don't know what this thing is. Hebo is its brand. And it looks rusty. It looks dusty. There's a penny that is drilled into this key ignition. Okay. Hebo the Hobo. This bike is going to be so ugly for the longest time. An ugly bike, an ugly scooter like this, that's fast. In the car world, that's a sleeper. This bike is a sleeper, and I cannot wait to start digging into this bike. There's so much to learn about it. And you know what? The bars are kind of cool too. I do like the retro old school bars like this. Good news, both brakes work, front and rear. I don't have any front brake on any of my bikes. It's fine. This, definitely gonna be a project, but how exciting is this? A Hebo 70cc Manston motor with a Hebo racing pipe and a 12-inch rear swap on it. This bike went fast at one point, real fast. And I'm excited to get it to that point again. This is going to be cool. And the motor does turn over quite easily. There's the compression. So it definitely has compression, which is good. And I already got Hebo stripped down to the frame. This is also the first scooter that I had fully disassembled to the frame like this. Every plastic bit is off. I did this so that we can trace all these wires because there is a lot of wires But so far, what I've looked at and seen is all the important stuff is hooked up that needs to be. The throttle cable, everything that goes to the motor itself to power it is hooked up. The stuff that isn't is all this stuff back here. A lot of this is turn signals and tail lights and all that good stuff. The main focus right now is just to get this bike running. I don't care about the legality of it. This thing isn't going to be on the streets for a while. But that's going to be the biggest job, wiring this bike. Definitely a ton of stuff. The CDI box is way up here though. That's interesting. Everything plugs in that needs to be. Yeah, there's a lot to go through. But all the important pieces that need to be plugged in are plugged in. That's the good thing. There is no kickstart, so I'm going to put that Kickstarter back in and hook it up. Also, the negative wire for the starter itself needs to be wired back up down over here. The positive wire for the starter is connected. So that might or might not work, but either way, we got to hit it with that Kickstarter, get that on there, and get that wired back up. So definitely going to tuck everything out the way so I can separate what needs to be and get some focus on the power. Because the first thing we're going to do is put a battery to this bike and see where all the power goes to. Power, fuel, because that's going to be a big job, air, and spark. Spark is the easiest thing. You just hook this up, put the plug in there, and see if it's sparking or not. Biggest thing right now is the wires on this bike. Then put a battery on it. So the first things we're going to do is get a battery, get that starter hooked back up, get all the important stuff for starting the bike up. Also trace this ignition, and everything seems to be hooked up. I'm looking at all the wires going through. The important wires are hooked up. So I'm not stressed about any of this back here right now. Not stressed about how much gas is in it, because I can just look and see. Right now, power. So we need a battery, we need to hook the starter back up, get a kickstart on there, boom, good to go. Then we're gonna drain the fuel out of this tank, get it all clean. I'm gonna give it a 32-to-1 ratio because this dude before me deleted this oil pump. So he just left all the oil pump stuff here, but he definitely got rid of it because if I follow the throttle cable, which I did, there's nothing going to the oil pump. He converted it to premix, which is sweet. I know all about that. So clean the tank out, clean the lines out, get that good. Once the battery is hooked up with everything I just talked about, we're gonna go ahead and make sure that nothing is blocking the intake, but as you see, it's not. But we're gonna open up this carburetor and check it out and see what is in there so I can see what jet it is, because this thing looks brand new, so that's good. The electronic choke is also hooked up. We go back here and follow these wires. Everything seems to be hooked up that needs to be for the choke, which is good. And I know it works because the dude started it. Brand new automatic choke. Once we have that carburetor cleaned out, we're going to be moving on to the spark plug. And everything here is functional and powered up that needs to be. So that's good. So to get this bike running, there's really not too many steps involved right now. I really want to get that starter wired back up though, because it's definitely useful. But just for backup, we will use the kickstart and I'll get that put together. I didn't open up that case yet, but we will. So really not that bad. There's only about 5 or 6 major things to go through to see where this bike sits at and starting this bag roll up. I'm doing some research on this flywheel and I typed in those numbers that you see. And what pops up for this flywheel is strange, man. Arctic Cat. The Arctic Cat Can-Am or snowmobile must be a universal flywheel because Arctic Cat pops up, which is so strange. So still no information about what this bike is. I cannot find anything that looks like it. I even looked up the flywheel numbers, but really not the main concern at all. But it is such a mystery. The mystery is solved. Right here in the living room that I have is a replica Yamaha Vento scooter, right? Now look at that bike in the garage. Tell me that that is not a replica Vento. Look at the front of it. Look at the handlebars. Look at the side of it. Look at the panels. Look at the wheels. This is it. That is a replica clone Yamaha Vento. We have the mystery solved. It was almost like I was supposed to own this bike because I had this chilling in my living room the whole time. It is a clone Yamaha Vento. Mystery solved. So, I'm gonna leave it like this. Today is a beautiful day. But what about the Vento, right? Here she is. She's good to go. Everything is reassembled. The transmission is back together. The exhaust is back together. She can start up and run right now. But not without one more problem. This is why I didn't film this, is because I got sick of negative news. 3 videos back to back of negative stuff, man. I don't like that. There's a rag under here for a reason. So what happened is there's a pressure release hole for your gearbox back there. Now, if your gearbox accumulates too much pressure, that will alleviate it and it'll leak out as it needs to. Problem is, it's just leaking all the gear oil straight out the box. Why? Because the gasket that I made, I cut a hole where a hole does not need to be. And because I cut a hole where it doesn't need to be, it just leaks all of the gear oil. Within 20 minutes, it is drained flat. She starts up, she runs, she rips, but not without leaking all the gear oil. So what I did is I ordered 2 different brands of gearbox oil gaskets for 1PE40 QMB bikes right here. Same exact one, 2 different brands, but sadly they're coming tomorrow. They're coming tomorrow on a Monday or a Tuesday for a second one. So what needs to happen is I need to get that gearbox gasket and I need to throw it in that bike, re-oil it, put everything back together, and let her eat, because boys, she was ripping. She was ripping, and I was so proud of her. From a dead stop, out the hole, gets up and goes. With those stock gears that was in there, it would rev too high. It would rev too high, and it did not really get up off the line. It does now. But at the same time, without getting into more detail, we got to retune that transmission. And it's not hard at all. You know, there's one solution, and I have the solution in my garage, boom, bam. But right now, we gotta wait for that gasket so it doesn't leak all the gear oil, because that's no bueno. Cannot run a bike without any gear oil. That sucked. I did not want to film anything about it because it was just negative, and I got sick of it. So the Vento is good to go. Here she is sitting pretty. She's been down for 3 weeks, and I hate it. But Monday, get those gaskets, take it apart, throw it in there, and we're gonna get this bike going faster because she was on her way. Here we go. But she's good. She's sitting pretty back here. So this weekend is gonna be a good weekend, and I'm pumped up for it, man. Bikes, bikes, bikes. We're gonna get that gasket in that bike, get that thing ripping. Both of these bikes will be back in action. This bike is solid. Always will be. Always trust this bike. Love this bike to death. But now we have a 3rd addition to the channel. Now I'm pumped about that bike. Who knows what's gonna happen, you know? There's so many possibilities for that bike, but whatever it turns out to be, I'm all for it. All for it. I always seem to get these bikes like dirt cheap and then turn them into just something special. And that's exactly what's gonna happen with that other one. Vento's gonna be back up soon. I'm sorry for the negativity lately. I hope this helps and brings the positivity back, because that's all I like to do. I'm a positive guy, and I don't like that problem after problem after problem. Not good. But that's mechanics sometimes, you know. So everything is good. This coming weekend is going to be a good weekend, and I can't wait. The sun is still out. It's still the season to ride. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm going to keep doing this as long as I can. I love bikes. I love working on them. A little bit of a hiccup process lately, but it's all right. Thank you. I'll be here. These 3 bikes will be here. Until next time, guys.